Hello friends, this is Carrie and welcome back to I Like Reddit channel. I hope you all are staying safe and healthy. Happy holidays, friends, and Happy New Year since it will be New Year soon. I'm sorry I've been gone for so long. I've had some stuff to deal with and I just needed to take a break from YouTube for a bit. Anyway, so I'm back and with 3 stories out of the Entitled People subreddit. Let's begin. Our first story is by Daniel Bryan Fan. Entitled friend parent decides to bring their uninvited child to our adult Christmas party and take over our house. My wife and I have an annual Christmas party at our house with our friends and siblings each year. Last year, 2 of our friends had a child shortly before the party. The child wasn't invited last year either, but we weren't bothered given that it was more like bringing an uninvited potato than a person given it was an infant at the time. This year, the child was walking, and they had told us that they were getting a sitter, so there seemed to be no reason to mention that, as it would not be appropriate to bring a child to our party. As the title indicates, without asking or even telling us that the child was coming, they showed up with their kid, and we had no way to set up the house to be child-proofed. As a result, we had to close a bunch of doors that were intended to be left open to allow guests to spread out into our basement and living room. So for most of the party, we had about 14 people cramped into our small kitchen as the parents let their 1-year-old child roam freely. Our party is by no means a rager, but people were drinking a lot less than normal, and my wife and I weren't drinking at all, as we are responsible for what happens in our house, and the parents weren't keeping a good eye on their child. The one thing the mom decided to do was to tape a bunch of our drawers shut, without asking us to do so, with our tape, which meant that she went through our drawers without asking, as obviously the kid was going to be going around opening everything and pulling stuff out. As the unattended child continued around, he kept messing with our dog, including taking food out of her bowl and pulling on her fur, and the parents still didn't do anything. Being between the dog and the child became part of my duties as the host. Our dog is a rescue and quite skittish, and by some miracle of the universe just put up with the child each time I wasn't there in the right place at the right moment. Similarly, the child pulled the bells off the door and broke them that our dog used since the day we adopted her as a signal that she needed to go outside. And now she can't seem to understand that the new different looking bells are for the same purpose. Next, the child was getting tired and cranky, and instead of taking the child home, they decided that it was time to go into our guest room, which was closed and used to store all the extra stuff that we had around the house that we moved to make room for the party and our guests. This greatly embarrassed my wife, as we had cleaned all the public areas completely, and we didn't do much for the areas that guests wouldn't see. Uninvited and without asking, they set up a playpen for their child, which they had built, and then left the trash in our house before returning to the party themselves. They didn't leave until 10, basically killing around half the party for us, and much of the party for our other guests who didn't stay very late. I am by no means mad at the child. They're a kid and don't know any better. But the parents must have known not to bring a kid to an adult Christmas party. Edit. I accept people's judgment that I should have confronted them. My issue was that because we were putting out all these fires, the other guests probably didn't realize what was going on, and everyone knows each other, but still I should have confronted them. If you're enjoying the content so far, please put a heart emoji in the comment section down below. Our next story is by Throwaway for No Drama. Entitled Stalker claims that I'm his wife, and that he's the owner of my computer. Well, the pettiness is never ending. As I've posted too many times, I need to write a book. My sister's ex-boyfriend / baby daddy, Ken, is currently stalking me. He's even gone so far as to try and harass my foster daughter in her kindergarten. He's been doing the classic things like following me around at a distance, calling me with random numbers, and he's even tried to come inside my place once. I was not there, and I decided to stay elsewhere for my safety until I could finally move completely out of state. Regardless, for the most part, nothing serious as him approaching my kid has happened until the craziness of this morning. I decided to buy a new PC for my partner as a Christmas present. We love video games, but his computer was a bit old, so I decided to surprise him with a really nice desktop with an NVIDIA 3080. The thing is pricey, but he's been my rock through this whole mess with my sister, and he's even the reason I'm able to adopt my foster daughter. I set the PC up at a Blue Tech Emporium. Well, wouldn't you know it, I wasn't even done with my coffee when I get a call from customer service saying that there was a man there claiming to be my husband, screaming at their pickup person since I wouldn't give them my order. I obviously told them that I was not married and I would be by to pick it up in person later after work. They asked me to go and solve this since they would check IDs to compare. Now, a little detail is that Ken didn't know that I changed my name less than a year ago and removed my biological father's name. I'd been planning this for years but wanted to wait until my grandparents and paternal aunts had passed away. I knew it would break their hearts if I did this while they were alive. My name is now that of my stepfather and stepmom. When I got there, he was screaming at the poor rep, waving an ID saying that the names matched. After explaining to the store security the situation, he accompanied me to speak with the manager. I used to work at that store long ago, so I was on fairly good terms with the manager. He actually knew my old name, but since it didn't match in the system, it didn't matter. Ken started yelling at me, calling me every insult possible. He even tried to throw a tape dispenser, but the guys at the counter took it before he could reach for it. I tried not to engage with him. The only thing I said directly was for him to let me speak when he wouldn't stop yelling. He kept going, saying creepy things like I owed him that much, and that he was entitled to my stuff since I took his house. I didn't. It wasn't even mine. Eventually, he only left after the guys at the store said that they were calling the police. They couldn't keep him in the store even though they wanted to. It was against store policy. I did stay until the police arrived and brought up all the other situations with this man and all the calls I had made about him stalking, even the no contact order. Still, the officer said since he was the father of my sister's baby, that it was clearly a domestic matter, and all he recommended was for me to change my contact info and lock my home up. The store wanted to press charges, but since all he did was cause a scene, all that could be done was for him to be trespassed from the building in the future. I did get my PC, and a security guard escorted me to my vehicle, so I didn't have another encounter. Just to be safe, my partner and I changed cars later in the day when I went to pick up my daughter. Since it seems like there is nothing the police could do for now, I'm just planning to keep going with my plan. I'll be leaving this weekend to celebrate the holidays with family that my sister doesn't know personally, and once the holiday's over, my daughter's adoption should be close to finalized, and we'll be moving pretty far. To the people curious as to why he has an ID with my old last name on it, my suspicion is it's a fake ID. My half-siblings and I used to have our biological father's name, so he would have known that through my sister. Mary and two of my brothers and I are the only ones that decided to change our names on the line that we wanted nothing to do with our biological father's legacy, stupid as it sounds. Our final story is posted by True Description 9673. My sister is an entitled pain and is clueless. For background, I, 25 female, have an older sister, 40. Yes, that's a 15-year age gap. My parents got married at 21 and didn't have my sister until they were 31. And that was with 10 years of trying. They never thought they would have any more children, and then I came along when they were 46. My parents are now 71 and aren't in terrible health, but not the greatest health either. You may ask if my sister had any hard feelings about me when I was born. I honestly don't know. She moved out at 18 when I was 3. My sister is exceptionally stubborn, from what I understand, and always butted heads with our dad just on what she wanted versus what they had. My parents are hardworking and honest individuals. My dad owned a small construction company. My uncles and cousins worked for him. My mom worked for him as his receptionist/secretary. It was a company run out of her home. So my mom with her kids at home, so a working stay-at-home mom, I guess. My parents kept a roof over our heads, clothes on our backs, and food in our bellies. We had basic cable on one TV, and had no internet in our home until I was 12, 2008. It wasn't the most luxurious life, but we had it better than a lot of other people. We still lived in poverty, but my parents knew how to save and stretch. I know how to as well. My sister, on the other hand, never grasped that idea. Now, my sister moved out at 18 and took the money my parents saved for her since she was a baby. It was only about $7,000, but would have been enough at the time for a semester at State University or a reliable used car. She didn't use the money for that. Oh no. She used it to get an apartment, which was fine, but she assumed that she would have enough money to live for a year without getting a job. She blew through that money in about a month. She didn't want to return home because she thought our home life was horrible. She couldn't have a TV VCR in her room. She couldn't have a cell phone unless she paid for it, which at the time was kind of expensive, $19.99. She couldn't buy the clothing brands that she wanted, and she couldn't have all the CDs and VHS tapes that she wanted. You get the idea. She thought that Daddy should give her whatever she wanted. So she moved in with a friend and kept couch surfing until her friends got sick of her. Now, you have to remember I was a small child and I don't really know all the details, but this is kind of what has been told to me by my family and family friends. So my sister finally gets a job. It's a minimum wage job that she thinks is below her, but now she really needs the money. From the time I was 3 until I was 13, I saw my sister once a year at Christmas. She wouldn't bring any gifts for us, but expected no less than 3 gifts from each of us, and would get mad if that didn't happen, or if the gifts that she got weren't good enough. She would also ask to borrow money, which my parents didn't have much extra and wanted to save. She didn't acknowledge our birthdays, but heaven forbid if we didn't send her gifts or call her, etc. She didn't want to see us on her birthday. She always wanted to celebrate and get drunk with her friends. When I was 13, I started babysitting to add to my savings that my parents had started for me, like they did with my sister. She started calling and wanting to talk, asking me for money. Now, I babysit a few times a month for a couple of hours. I wasn't rolling in dough. I always told her no, that I was saving for college, and she said that I was just like our parents, always saying no. Then she whined and complained that she's family and that I should help her out. She had a job and roommates to share expenses at 28 and no car. I found out later that she was letting her guy friends borrow money that they had never paid back in order to get them to like her. So this went on for a couple of years. Fast forward to me graduating high school a year early and being valedictorian. I decided to use my scholarship money to go to a local community college. I didn't want to go into debt by going to one of those better schools that I got into. My sister thought this meant that the money was up for grabs. I was not yet 18, so the account couldn't be transferred to me yet. My mom and dad again told her no, and she said that she deserved to go on a cruise with her friends that she couldn't afford. Mom told her it wasn't my fault, that she could have saved instead of buying worthless crap that she didn't need or lending out money she didn't have. Sister whined and complained about how we're family and how she's not as loved as her little sister, who is obviously the favorite, which they raised us according to our personalities, but equality in terms of morals, values, and money. She said I was spoiled because I had more money in my account than she had, and that at the time I was working at a restaurant for a year, putting my money into savings. I don't know how she found out what I had in there. I think she snooped through the house and found my bank book. She had a tendency to do that. She was always looking for cash, and I'm pretty sure she stole some a few times. My parents had gotten creative with hiding it. I once found cash in the freezer labeled spinach. I was looking in the freezer for some frozen spinach to make an egg white omelet. So for my graduation present, my parents and I used some of the money to get me a brand new, used, reliable car for college and work. My sister thought this was a huge betrayal, even though she had had the same option. When that was pointed out to her, it was like she had forgotten. She was also mad that I didn't have a curfew. And you think that might be favoritism, but it's a difference. I have 2 close friends that we do everything together, and if we were out late, it was because we saw a movie or a second movie. We hung out at local used bookstores and always told our parents where we were. I'd also used some of my money to get a cell phone, which I was paying for myself. I planned on living at home, yes, rent-free, as long as I continued to help with chores, cleaning, cooking, laundry, mowing, shoveling, etc. My sister had the same option, but she chose to leave. My parents tried this offer when she was packing to leave, but she wouldn't listen. Fast forward to now. So I have a job in my chosen field. I make okay money, and it will increase in a few years, but I've only been at it for 4 years. I still live with my parents, do most of the household chores, and pay most of the bills. My mom and dad are retired and getting Social Security payments, so we get by. I'm still able to save some money for me, but I am by no means well off. In the last couple of years, my mom had to have major surgery and it took months to recover, in addition to having to stay in the hospital for 2 months. My dad had an ulcer, a severe urinary tract infection at the same time. We've been very lucky to steer clear of COVID, but we have been safe and careful following all the mandates and keeping clean. I did work from home before all of this stuff with COVID started, so it wasn't very hard to switch. We're all vaxxed and boosted now too. So over the last 2 years, my sister has been even more of a pain in the butt asking about money. Now please note that she's married, but he does not have a job and he's never had one. They let their moocher friends live with them and she provides them with food stamps. She does nothing else. Her husband doesn't know the value of $1 either. He sits at home on his butt watching TV or sleeping all day. Roommates sleep all the time too. No one does any housework and the house is falling apart. Her job pays her $2,500 a month, but after mortgage, utilities, car payments, insurance, gas, 3 iPhones with max amount of everything, 4 TVs with cable, vet bills for the 13 cats that are always sick, there isn't much left for food or any other needs. When they had electrical problems, they couldn't be in the home for a week. I helped pay for a cheap motel and had to go to the Aldi's website to order and have some groceries delivered for them about 6 times, just because I didn't want them to go hungry. They asked this during the pandemic while mom and dad were taking care of the hospital bills and while I was helping them out. I didn't have very much extra to spare, but hey, I didn't want them to be on the streets or going hungry. Now my sister expects me to buy groceries every week. Mind you, they eat all way too much. For 3 people, the bill even from Aldi's is $175 a week. I keep saying no and getting called a heartless witch. She always thinks I'm jealous of her and her husband because I'm not married. Their relationship's a mess and nothing to be jealous of anyway. Sorry this is so long. I had to get this off my chest. I have not helped her in the last 6 months and I've blocked her, but yet she still calls on the landline that my parents insist on keeping. I'm not complaining here, more like venting because I know others deal with this. The part that bothers me most is how she ended up so entitled when my parents aren't and didn't treat her any way that would make her entitled. They encouraged hard work and independence. My parents, after saying hi and good to know that you're still alive, hang up on her now too. That's all the stories I have for today. Links to the original Reddit post will be in the description box below. Please stop on by Reddit to show the OP some love and an upvote. If you enjoy my videos, please comment, like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell notification to let you know when I upload new videos. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.